All right, so again, with root fruit, we're going to go a layer deeper than the corporate training typically goes. And at specific moments tonight, I'm going to show you where the professional concepts connect to something that the Word of God has been teaching before. All right. Those connections aren't forced; they're natural. And when you see them, you'll understand why we believe that professional development and spiritual formation are not two separate things. They're the same work applied across different domains. Real quick question. Who doesn't want to be a Christian at work? Who doesn't want to be who you are in your faith at your job? Can't see your faces, can't see your hands. So I don't know how you're responding, but unmute your mic if you don't want to be that. All right, my point I made. So um, this will be professionally focused, but everything goes back to who you are. And that's the root fruit piece is our identity. It's who we are and how we represent ourselves professionally with another thing that, all right, so back to where we were. Um, so I got the chat open. This is a chat prompt, right? Which means your answer, I'm going to need you to post in the chat area. So, first thing I'm going to ask you to do is, let me get back to it. All right. I'm going to give you one word. Hold on a second. Let me get back to where I was. All right. I'm going to give you one word and I want you to type the first one or two words that come to your mind. All right. I'm going to give you one word and the first one or two words that come to your mind, don't overthink it. Don't try to give a right answer or anything. Just whatever your brain hands you first, I want you to write it in the chat. All right. The word is success. Let me give you 30, 45 seconds. And I'm looking at the chat. 30, 45 seconds. First one or two words that come to your mind when I say success. All right. I see accomplishments, work, money, discipline, um, completion, Amber said. R&R, I got to see who R&R is. That says life, excellence. And Avian, my sister, said money. All right, so all right. So I'm seeing everything from money. I see growth, contentment, Megan said. Avian said peace. All right, yeah. So I'm seeing everything from money, peace, excellence, discipline. I didn't see family. That's interesting. Um, all right, so I've seen everything there. So I gave you one word, and what the room produced um, is is a lot of different answers. Y'all like, okay, yeah, okay, I get that. Um, the same word I gave everybody, the same Zoom call, right? And we all have different answers, right? Um, every one of you pulled up a different picture in your mind as the first thing that comes to your mind about success when we said it. All right. So here's what I want you to understand. This whole lesson tonight, right, is about that very thing. One word, created all these different responses. All right, now I'm gonna try one more. Same rules. First thing your brain gives you, write it in the chat. Describe your perfect Saturday morning in 2 words. Describe your perfect Saturday morning in 2 words. Now, I'm saying Saturday is an off day. For all y'all that work on Saturday, pretend it's whatever day it is that you're off Monday. All right. So your perfect Saturday or Monday, whatever that day is that you work. In 2 words, what is it? Drop it in the chat. 2 words. Megan said sunshine and rest. Tavan, quiet and rest. Asia says birds chirping. P. Joy said peaceful and sunny. Candace said sleep in peace. Paris said sleeping in. Dana said family time. Um, Dr. Martha, you don't have to do the chat if you don't want to, but you can. Or you can text it to me on the phone and I'll read yours. How about that? Um, Raheem said morning dew, and Jim, even though he don't listen, I said 2 words. He gave me three. I'm gonna get. I'm gonna work on his mind. Where his face at? I can't see him over here. There you go. um, Tig, I'm gonna let you slide. You said workout. Um, I'll do work and out for your 2 words, but I said 2 words. Amber said sleeping in. All right, all right. Y'all's minds are interesting. All right, so let's go back to what we just
What's
saw.
yours?
Don't worry about mine. Uh,
Uh,
uh, I would say if I think of it, I would say perfect Saturday morning. I'd say prayer and gym, just for me. Prayer and gym. All right, and is a third word, but prayer, gym. All right, perfect Saturday morning. All right, so here's what happened. Right, um, you all didn't pause and research the answer to the questions or the words that I gave you, right? You didn't weigh 5 options and carefully select one, right? Your brain reached into a filing system and it pulled a template that has already been built. You've already established it. And almost instantly, the template that you have or that you have established as what that is, what those things are, those 2 words that I gave you, or that 1 word success and the other one perfect Saturday morning, right? You've already determined what that means because the first thing that came to you told you because you didn't go through a process. You didn't start going to the word. You didn't do it. It came to you quickly. All right. So I want you to understand that. That template is what we're talking about tonight, right? And that template is called a mental model. All right. That's called a mental model. Um, Here's what's interesting about it. Nobody in this on this call in this chat room gave a wrong answer. Every answer that you all gave is valid, but every answer was different. Why? You all speak English. Y'all know the word success. You know what it means. But the picture your brain produced was shaped by your specific experiences, right? The people who've influenced you, the environments you grew up in, the things that rewarded you or punished you in life. So your brain didn't give you a neutral, objective definition. It gave you a personalized, shortcut based answer. And it was based on everything you've absorbed thus far in your life. That's why older people may have a different word and younger people may have a different word, right? So your mind went through a shortcut. Um, and that's exactly what a mental model is. So when you saw the initial information that I sent us on the chat saying mental models, key to making reality based decisions, you may have had all these other thoughts, but basically, you may have, start looking it up, right? But basically, what a mental model is the mind's way of being efficient and processing. And it is what's fixed in you until you understand them, update them, test them, add to them, change them, work with them, right? And so, watch this, they're mental models. And so, what they do when they are engaged, when you think, when you do certain things, when you move, those things are what's feeding you, right? I ain't gonna get into the word. Y'all know I love the word. I ain't gonna get into it, right? But professionally, those models, if they're not built, if they're small or not varied, what's going to happen is you're going to think and work based upon the shortcut models your head gives you, based on experiences and everything else that you've had. All right. So I'm going to give you one piece of information that I want you to respond to immediately, right? Um, This is a chat prompt again. All right, I'm going to tell you something. Remember, no right, wrong answers. Be honest. Don't try to, you know where I'm going. So try to give me an answer based on what you think I'm doing. All right, just I want you to respond immediately. And here's the statement: your department's revenue, your job's revenue went up 15% this quarter. Is that good news or bad news? Type good or bad. Good. Asia, good. Donna, good. Amber, good. Avian, good. Candace, great news. There she go, Raheem. Good. Tavan, good. Raheem, bad. Tig, good. All right. So we got one bad and everything else good. All right. So here's the deal: the vast majority will type good. Almost everybody said good. Matter of fact, in my plan, what I wrote down, I wrote that most people are gonna say good. Does that mean it's bad? Nope. But most people are still gonna say good. Why? Because it makes sense. So let me add one more piece of information now. The industry average went up 25% this quarter. So your job went up 15%, but the industry's average went up 25. Your job went up 15, but the industry, it went up 25. Now, is it good or is it bad?
Still good.
Still good?
You ain't go down.
I ain't asking for you to explain it to me. I'm just telling me right now, you telling me your mental model, right? It didn't go down. What if I said your business revenue last month was at 22%? The industry average is 25, and your revenue this month went up 15%. So here's what I want you to see. The second time I gave you a number, and then when I added even more information, you know what happened? Your brain ran a different model, right? And this is the one I hate. I'm not gonna say I hate it. This is the one that we run all the time and we get in trouble for it. And this is why I'm talking about mental models because um, what I want to show you is how you use certain models like a hammer, right? The hammer, you use a hammer for everything. Instead of screwing it in, you hit it in. The nail, you're hitting the nail with it. You use, the one tool that you use for everything, right? That's what this one is, right? So watch this. Um, the second time, what your brain ran was what's called a performance tool, right? A comparison model. So a performance, right? So it ran a different model, a performance model relative to your peers. That model is sophisticated. It's produced completely. It produces different conclusions from the exact same number. I told you 15% it went up. And the next time I gave you another number, your brain went to another model. It went to another thing of collected information processing, all of that stuff. And it truncated it down because you all didn't get a calculator out or anything. So what I'm trying to show you is how you move from model to model to model, right? To Van, CEO, reads financials, and his mind can read financial models or financial performance models with the same industry, right? With the same number. If I tell a person that's working, I'm just going to use production. If I tell a person that's working production that revenue went up 15%, you know what that might mean for them? It might not be good. You know why? Because it may mean they got to work more and they don't want to work more. So for them, revenue going up 15%, they're like, I ain't getting none of it. That's the big, that's their money, right? I'm only making this much. And 15% revenue means thousands of more products, which means I got to work overtime, but overtime give me more money, but I ain't trying to work overtime, right? So now, depending on where you are and depending on your experiences and your performance model won't even be based off of a financial performance model and someone else is working that model, right? So does this make sense? How it switches with more and different information and greater and lesser context. Our mind is pulling models that we have already built. And if they the less we have, the less our model functions appropriately in certain situations, right? I'm not saying that 15% is bad for the person that's working in production, right? At an hourly pace or hourly rate. I'm not saying that's bad. To them, it's not good. Or to them, it might be good, right? So my piece isn't about right, wrong, good, bad. It's about how your brain is switching and grabbing things that you've already built in it, right? And so I'm going to get to how mental models in business works, because these are this is the background noise that we just think, yo, work people more, push more, do harder, blah, 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 blah. And all of this stuff will happen. And guess what? It ain't happening. No matter how much you fuss at them, no matter how much you say this, no matter how much you put goals out there, we still don't get them. Because sometimes you got to go behind the curtains and you got to deal with how to fix those things so that people calculate with the right calculator with the information and the words you're saying. You can try to lead folk, but if you're not building them and developing and cultivating them the way you're leading them and not getting the results, can be because you're not cultivating the right thing in them so they can receive what you're saying, so that you can continue and your business or your environment can continue to move. All right. So neither model is wrong. Sometimes we grow. Uh, let me rephrase that. Sometimes when we're looking at that 15%, that number is just saying that it's just saying growth. Whether it's faster or slower than everyone else, it's just a measure. Revenue increase is a measure of growth in comparison to something else. All right. So now, um, your brain picked a model, handed you a conclusion. You experienced that conclusion as obvious because everybody said it was good, right? It felt like a fact, but it wasn't a fact. Y'all get that? 15% revenue up wasn't a fact. Now that's hard to process because that is a fact. It happened. But that fact don't matter because 15% increase only matters in comparison to something. You might not even feel it depending on what 15% means to the business. So again, you might not feel it, meaning it may not matter. I'm going to talk about the way information is even given to you and how people respond to something that significantly has no bearing. You can go on the news and they could say carjacking is up by 50%. And now you go and get an alarm system and all that, and you're not understanding what to measure it against because 50%, and it was really at 0.2% last year per capita, and it's up 50%. Now it's at 0.4% per capita, means it's not even 1% up still, but that double number makes you respond and move because you heard it and your model ain't working right. All right. So it's not about the model right now. It's about you bringing awareness to you of how your mind is working and how it relates to decision making in your professional realm. All right. Now you can take this outside that, but we're talking in a professional realm right now, right? That's why I'm using revenue numbers. All right. So, um, your mental models works in real time. It happens every single day. Your brain takes in information, runs it through a shortcut that you didn't consciously select, and it hands you a conclusion that feels like reality. Some of us wake up, we process, start getting information, and we already say it's a bad day. We already say this, we already say that. And that's because your model is working and you ain't questioning it. You going with it. That's how some of the change that we need to happen starts happening, right? Because you got to question that model that tells you today ain't a good day because you received some information. Check your models, y'all. You know, the 80-20, that's a model. We'll get there, you know? Um, so you make decisions based on it, you act based on it, you argue with people who reach different conclusions because their brain ran a different model on the same information, and you think they're wrong when they're just really running a different program or software. Now, I want you to keep this in the areas of where you give yourself, right? If you work at home, if you stay at home, if you're a mother and your job is managing the family, still these processes are working, right? And so what you have to understand is sometimes our conflict ain't really conflict, it's just people processing differently. right? Work culture is bad because people don't understand each other. They don't understand what's really happening. And I got something. I created something for you all in the human services realm because there's a lot of us on here that I hope can clearly show you how introducing mental models, and that ain't just here. I worked in mental models, right? My people don't quite know it. They just think I'm training them. They just think I'm teaching them. They just think I'm helping them. But really, what I'm doing is providing other processing mechanisms for them so that when I talk to them and when we say we got to do stuff, I don't have to work through their 1+1 calculations. I've given them something that builds them so that now they can start processing different because I know what I'm going to be. I know the numbers. I know the direction. I know the words I'm going to be saying, right? So I got to build them. So this is for those of us in leadership. This is the eyes of development that you have to have and see in your people, right? At work I work in seeing talent. I hire people outside of my locus of control, outside of the areas that I run, because when they got in front of me, I saw certain talent that the business needed. And I said, no, I don't want him for the job I'm posting for, but he will be good over there. We need to hire him. And they hired him and put him in the other man's department, right? Because when you begin working in these realms, right, of development, what happens is you start seeing people differently. And so for bad leaders, highly emotional leaders, they're not necessarily bad. They need some new models too. They really just need some new models to work through. All right. So how many of you all looked up Six Sigma? All right, this is where y'all gonna have to unmute your mic. This ain't a chat thing now. All right. Who looked up Six Sigma?
You mean like today
Oh, you
or
got
yesterday?
did you get the text message?
I did. I didn't read through all of it though.
Oh, you didn't read it? Okay. Well,
Not
we're
all
gonna
of it.
cancel you. Who read it? Who read the text message? Who looked up Six Sigma?
I did.
You did?
Hey,
All right. Who
we
else did?
did.
Huh?
I did too.
I
I
did.
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 All right. So y'all talk to me. Tell me what Six Sigma is, the methodology altogether. Don't wait. All right. I start
Isn't
with
it the
Tavan. You
process
said
in
it
which
first. Tavan, you
It's
tell
pro
me, and then what you leave out, the next person will add to it. All right. So Tavan, what'd you see?
So basically what I have is a structured driven data that approaches to solve business problems, improving quality and creating more reliable, predictable processes than just
Okay.
guessing.
Okay. All right. We call it data-driven decisions. All right. Candace, what else did you see about it?
I wrote a process to create quality products in a reduced
Okay.
amount of time.
All right. Did you see products and services or you just saw products?
Well, I guess products and services.
Okay. All right.
I
Um,
saw quality management like based on a framework aimed at like eliminating something that's different, right? Defects and stuff like that.
uh-huh. All right. Donna?
I basically found the same thing. It was under the framework of DMAC, which means define, measure, analyze, improve, and control.
All right. The acronym DMAIC. Define,
Yeah.
measure, analyze, improve, and control. There's another one too for services. Did you see that?
Um, is it define, measure, analyze,
Uh-huh.
design, verify?
Yes, that's the other methodology, right? And that's
Um,
for creating what? New products and new services.
Yes, and processes.
Yes. So right there, watch this. What is a methodology? What does methodology mean?
Um, Basically how things operate, I would say.
Okay. The methods of,
Process. Mhm.
go ahead.
The process of how things are done or made.
And when you say the process, what does that mean? Because
Mhm.
you said how things are made, but
Or-
you're saying you're only allocating it to making something
Okay,
physically.
I'll put it under done. In the process, it's a standard ascribed to how services are provided or slash made. Because I'm in the human services industry, and it's not a tangible
It is.
commodity. Uh-huh.
It is. We just don't know quite how to make it tangible yet, right? And so this is why I'm bringing this, watch this, I'm bringing this methodology, I'm bringing a mental model. Now, I built one for you all. I'm gonna give it to y'all after this. I built one for y'all. I brought this Six Sigma, it applies across multiple industries because what its ultimate objective is to operate and produce at a level of perfection. Somebody wrote in the chat earlier, excellence. Six Sigma turns everything into a data point that can then provide you physical perfection quantification. That makes sense? How to quantify something to a level of perfection, to a sigma level of 6, which that means 99.99966. So the defect opportunity is 3 per million opportunities. So for every million processes that happen as an opportunity, right? Think about this. The process for hiring an employee, you have to go through a million processes of hiring an employee to get 3 defects out of all of those times. So think about if every person you interviewed, you hired, and they were excellent, they had everything you needed, and they performed to the point of perfection and satisfaction based upon you hiring them into that job to fill it. A million people, right? And you got 3 that didn't work. Like our defect opportunity rate now for hiring is what? You look at your turnover rate, and your turnover rate could be 60%, which means every other person that you hire plus you fire within a certain cycle. You know what Six Sigma will do? It'll come in and say, it will refute what most of us say because of one model that works. You know what that model is? Oh, they suck. I told you they weren't gonna make it, right? It boils them not performing or them not meeting what you wanted down to it being a personal issue, down to it being a person, and you can't change a person. But what Sigma says is, no, there's a process problem somewhere. Somewhere we're not understanding how to look to see or determine, right? So then it it starts converting stuff into data so that you can now use the data to drive solutions, right? So anyway, All right, so um, here's the scenario that I want you all. I already explained it a little bit. I'm going to describe this scenario. All right. Your client intake wait times are through the roof. I don't know what through the roof mean because I'm trying to design something for y'all, right? That are in similar industry. So I got Amber, Carla, Tavan, James, Megan on here that's in pretty much the same industry, different companies, right? Um, we also have Paula, she's not on here. We've got people applying for the same industry in Raheem, right? So I got a long. Candace is in human services as well, just a different type. Then we got Paris, who's feeding human services at Thermo Fisher. Asia, who's human services as a barber, but just in a different fashion, right? And then myself, who's in manufacturing, which is a whole other realm. All right. So just imagine this. Your client intake wait times are through the roof. Your team is burned out. The standard management mental model looks at the situation and says, the staff is overwhelmed and we're shorthanded. We need to hire more case managers. That feels obvious and a factual conclusion. Did I do it right? Did I guess it right? That makes sense?
We need a therapist.
Client intake, say it again.
In that case, we need a therapist. A case manager will be different.
All right. All right. So now watch this. Watch this. So here's the scenario. Here's the thing that I gave you. You make sense out of it. Client intake wait times are 5 weeks. That means you lost the client, right? I'm guessing. So client intake wait times are 5 weeks. Your team is burned out. And generally, what you say is what? The staff's overwhelmed. I don't have enough people. Right? Because increased wait time means what? Not enough people. Go ahead, talk. If I'm, I don't know if I'm.
I
No,
think that goes back to like your first point of like, well, the first question that we did where we said that like the 15% was bad because I feel like I live in the twilight zone on a weekly basis where none of my team like achieves the hours that they're supposed to achieve, but then we always say that we need new staff because we have clients who are waiting to be seen, but really our staff aren't being efficient with their time. So every time they tell me to hire new people, I tell them to go make our staff more efficient. And then if we still need to hire new people, like then we can talk.
So watch this. What you just said is this is why people hate, not hate, but they don't like Six Sigma, they don't like industrial engineers, they don't like us because we say no, we're not hiring nobody else. We're gonna drive efficiency, effectivities. Sometimes we call it OEE, right? Overall equipment. This is when we look at equipment, overall equipment efficiencies, right? You guys are using machines. Now you guys are talking about people, and the answer is always hire more people, hire more people. Now, you said the right thing, but if you don't know how to give them the model to work in, they're going to continue to give you what? The same thing. No, you guys need to be more efficient, you need to be better, you need to do this, do this, do that. That is absolutely right. But they can't do it if their model still tells them that we need more people, that people is the answer, because they can't see past it and they don't know how to work past it. Right. And so that's a part of why mental models are things that in your roles, in your thinking, in your understanding, when you start understanding these elements, you're actually working, you're actually fixing your business. You're actually working on your problems, even though it doesn't seem like your wait time is going down. Sometimes to get that wait time down, You got to build those people or provide the things that are causing the failures. And now, how you begin to see that is a whole other methodology. It's a whole other way of seeing. When I come to a work floor, right? I just went to the UK, and in the UK, I had to go in with a team. I had to write the plan to go in and assess capital investment, um, something we call configurations, right? Which cost the jobs that we sell to customers. We need to sell it. We need to cost them faster, right, within a day, so that the person coming wanting us to quote thousands of belt don't have to wait 3 weeks, because you know how the world is. Hurry up and tell me, because I'm comparing you all against other people, right? So I have to go in and do this plan. But when I go into an operation, I'm not seeing the way you see. Kind of like me as a pastor, right? When I go and I hear and I talk and I connect to you about your life spiritually, I'm not seeing from how you see from the way you've operated. I'm seeing from a whole different methodology, right? So the same way at your job, if you don't understand the mental modes that are at play, and if you don't understand them and understand how to shift them, how to add, how to increase, how to get them to operate in different mindsets, then you're going to struggle with getting the result you want. And what you'll do is you'll exchange people, and all the people that's coming in don't have the mindset. And some of it maybe because you're not even looking for that right mindset. You don't even know how to, and I'm not saying you all, right? I'm talking in a general sense, right? So please don't think I'm talking about you all specifically. I'm saying that when you don't understand how to look for the candidate because you don't understand what you really need, then you can't effectively interview for it. Because I guarantee you, all the interviews sound the same. We ask the same question. I don't ask the same questions in the interview. I gauge the person. I listen to what they're saying, and I take cues. That's why people hate interview. They don't like me to interview them, because I'm really gonna pull the stuff. I know what people are gonna say when they get in front of interview. It's the best that they're gonna be. And if they're not that good in an interview, that's the best you're gonna get from them, in them talking about how they're selling themselves to you for a job. So what I'm doing is I'm listening to what they're saying, and then I'm creating things that'll lead them to pull out ways that they think. Megan said something, I don't know when it was. I just remember it. And I believe it was in one of our laboratories, where she says a lot of times, because she questioned things, people think she's um, contrary or something like to that nature, right? She's you know, disagreeable or something like that. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember that, Megan?
Well, that happens to me regularly. So yes, yes, I do.
Okay. So, um, but watch this. That might be what you're looking for in a candidate. Because what it says is, I question the norms. I question, and sometimes we bring people in to follow the norms. Now, I'm not speaking to you all specific. This is not a diagnosis for you all or anybody. What I'm telling you is a diagnosis for how we look to see what we need for problems that we can convert into data that we can then fix and show it in the data, right? And what I mean by that is, if you don't get someone to challenge your norms, you won't get growth. Now, you got a control challenge, because sometimes challenge come in and challenge ain't got no gut behind it either, right? They just contrary, right? So you got to learn how to look and see. And generally, it means you're looking for a certain skill set. So you're not necessarily looking for that, but you're looking for people who challenge it. And then once they challenge, they have a method behind their challenge, and their whys behind it, and then what they did, right? So if you see a person who, I disagree with my boss, okay, so why did you disagree? And what did you do? in that disagreement? How did you, not just disagree, but how did you show that your thinking pattern or what you were thinking was different from theirs? And how did you help to persuade them? Right. So the point I'm making is I just brought in a model that will show you something different in how you process your everyday activities that's still happening. All right. So let me get here. Let me get back on my notes real quick. So we talked about that situation. Now watch this. A Six Sigma mental mode looks at the same situation and it says, we're burying skilled staff in manual data entry and non-value added tasks. So a Six Sigma odd person, a DIMAIC, define, measure, analyze, improve, and control method person will come in and say, they won't, they'll say the weight intake times are too high. And it's because we got a lot of folks doing non-value added tasks. We got skilled people doing manual data entry. Somewhere else, it's pulling away from what they can focus on to retain or to reduce the intake. All right. So he or she might say, if we eliminate the waste in the process, we can unlock capacity that's already on payroll. Because you probably could walk around and see people really not doing much, or they have lulls in work, right? They really, maybe you can, maybe you can't. But for me, in my areas, I know how to spot waste. I know how to spot people that trying to act like they working, and every time I see them, they over there talking, and I'm like, yo, I know y'all got plenty of time. So when they start crying, and this is I'm talking, we have different levels of staff. We have OTG, Office Technical Group, right, which is still hourly, but they have salary perks, if that makes sense. They don't have to come in, they don't have to clock into, or if they clock in late or whatever, they're not getting dinged for it or nothing like that. We just manage them to tasks, right? Do they do their job? Yeah, they're going to work over tomorrow if they leave early today. So they have a little more leverage than just a check in, check out person. Then you have your salary group, your hourly group, stuff like that, right? Um, so what we'll say is, all right, who's a value added person that's doing stuff that's really not value added? What are the non-value added things that are happening? Now, if you don't know how to see non-value added, or what we call waste, needed waste, not needed waste. If you don't know how to see waste, then you can't get rid of it. And getting rid of it can give you more time, right? I went to the UK. They have their machines set up in a fashion where two people work on two machines. In the US, we got four people, four machines, and one person is manning four machines. So already that tells you what? Just generally, we might be producing something faster because we got four machines with one person working on them. Or it might be even slower, right? But here's the deal. What we found out is the way their setup is, they got 9 seconds of wait time per component that's coming to
You can't
them.
hear him.
Can't hear me? Can you hear me? You can hear me? Can y'all hear me?
Asia's tripping. Yeah, Asia's tripping.
Yes,
Okay.
I can
All
hear
right.
you.
All right. And so when we went there, it was able to look automatically, see the differences in setup, and then say, yo, they waiting a long time. I mean, like, if y'all tell you to look at the person in your room for 10 seconds, eyeball to eyeball, that was a long wait, won't it? Won't that a long wait where I stopped talking?
Yeah, I thought you were frozen for a sec.
Uh, right? So watch this. That's how much they're waiting between one spring to put in, right? That's a long time. Now multiply that times 8 hours a day, and every spring that's coming, that's a lot of waste, right? And so guess what? We got to reduce that. And then we can get right. They're asking for a new spring machine, and I'm telling them, dude, you waiting every 9 seconds for your springs. Just because it's set up wrong, you want me to spend $800,000 to buy a new spring machine, and you're waiting, right? How about we speed this one up before we start investing in something else? So anyway, the point is that different models help you see things differently. All right. So now, how does your brain build shortcuts? All right. So let me explain what actually happens in your head. All right, and I ain't no psychiatrist, psychologist, but this is just normal processing at a high level that we all can understand. All right. But everybody that went to school, most of us took psychology. You probably don't remember Freud and all this stuff talking about how your brain worked. But that's why it was important. We never really thought we'd use it, but that's why it's important. All right, so your brain encounters an overwhelming amount of information every single second, every single day, right? Just tonight, your brain's getting information they haven't heard before, and it's trying to associate itself to process it using tools to gain understanding that you've already got so you can understand it, right? So at the end of the day, think about your drive to work, right? Or even just walking through a grocery store. There are a number of visual inputs, sounds, decisions, spatial calculations, social cues your brain is processing at any given moment. It's staggering, right? You might see somebody in the store, you might see somebody you don't like, you might see somebody you don't know that you don't like. Right? You don't know them, but you know you don't like them just because of how they look already, right? I mean, you right? Like you going through, and I ain't talking to that person. No, you see, you go to the aisle and you see a person in the aisle, and you make a decision. I'm not going down that aisle because of the way that person look. Already, your brain did a calculation, process something, pull something in your head, pull one of them biases you got. Pull one of the prejudices out that you got, right, and told you don't walk down that aisleway because he looked like this or he looked like that already, right? So and just that, right? You hear the sound going on in the store, you hear somebody else talking, your brain is processing all of that information. You don't realize it, but your brain's pulling it all in. All right. So now, there is no way that you can constantly evaluate all of it in real time. You'd be paralyzed. That's why there's this phrase of analysis paralysis, right? Where you analyze something so much, you stay doing something so much that you never make a decision because you can never get through trying to decide what decision to make. Analysis paralysis. If your mind had to analyze everything that's coming in consciously, you would be stuck. You'd be glitching. All right. So your brain does something brilliant. It builds shortcuts, internal templates that allow it to categorize, predict, and respond quickly without having to evaluate every situation from the ground up. Every time you have an experience, new information, or get rewarded or punished for thinking a certain way, your brain flies, your brain files it away and uses it as a reference for the next time it encounters something similar, right? That's a mental model. It's the brain's way of creating efficiency. It works. And it's why we can drive without thinking about driving, us old drivers. New drivers get in there and they when I first started driving, right? You every little feel you correcting. It's like, yo, stop. Little, why are you so tense, so tight? We sitting back like this now, right? We'll drive with our finger right here. Just because guess what? Our mind is so in tune to what has happened over the experience that nothing phases us. Your mind's on autopilot. You can drive home and don't even realize how you got home because you think about something else, right? You can drive and text. You know why? Because your body already know how to do that. And at some point, right, when you first start texting and driving, y'all don't do that. I know you don't. But when you first started texting and driving, right, it was you almost ran to the back. So now y'all can text and drive and don't even have you can text with your finger and don't even hardly look at it, right? Because your brain has maximized it. Now watch this. You have maximized a bad process, a bad habit, and everything, and your brain is efficient at it. It's good at it, right? Your brain is great at it, and it's It's not bad. It's just the power of your mind. It is bad, but it's just the power of your mind. All right. So, the part that really matters um, is this: the whole purpose of mental models is to bypass your conscious evaluation, right? You is to not even know it's operating. All right. You can think you're making a fresh decision, right? You can think you're reading a situation clearly, and really, you're actually running old software. You think, right? Taban wakes up, says, I got a great idea, and that great idea could still be old software. It's a good idea, but it's still, you got to understand, it's still running off of software that may be old. It's just producing a new output that feels like a new idea, right? And then if that new idea doesn't work, it's like, man, we trying to, I'm out of ideas. No, we're not out of ideas. We're out of new software, right? And so the mental models become new software. Peter Senge, Senge, he wrote one of the most influential books in organizational learning, right? And it's called Mental Models. It's deeply held internal, it speaks to deeply held internal images of how the world works. Another name, Donald Norman. He's a cognitive scientist. He describes mental models as organized knowledge frameworks that allow individuals to describe, explain, and predict behaviors. Now, remember, what a mental model is doing is creating a way for you to do this unconsciously. The same way you drive unconsciously, right? It's the same way that once you learn how to type, you type now unconsciously. You don't even have to look at the keyboard, right? You just, right? That was a mental model that you built a long time ago, and now you get on the computer, you 60 words a minute, whatever. They used to track it when keyboards and all that stuff came out. Now they don't even worry about no 60 words. How much you use 60 words a minute? No, I'll talk on the thing and it'll text now. Right? So, but your mind created that stuff. So part of your ability to innovate will come in your ability to bring new models into your mind. And look, we're gonna get into the models next week. They're great. Now, you guys did a questionnaire. I'm not going to tell you that, but what I'm going to want you all to do is type in the chat what your top 2 letters was, because that's going to tell you the dominant models that you're working at that I'll reveal to you later. All right. But for right now, I'm going to give us a 5-minute break to turn your cameras off, do whatever you got to do, take a bathroom run, get something to drink. And then we'll be back at 8:20. All right. Everybody cool with that?
Yes, sir.
All right.